Hey there, how's it going? Thanks for joining me today. Whether you're relaxing at home, on your commute, or winding down for the evening, I'm really glad you're here. Now, I want you to imagine something with me for a moment. Picture yourself having the most ordinary morning imaginable. You're shuffling to the kitchen in your pajamas, maybe rubbing the sleep from your eyes, reaching for that first cup of coffee. The house is quiet. Sunlight streams through familiar windows. Everything is exactly as it should be. But then, something impossible begins. You feel it first as a strange tingling in your bones, not painful, just odd. Like growing pains, but different, deeper. You pause, coffee mug halfway to your lips, and that's when you notice your pajama sleeves seem a little shorter than they were a moment ago. Weird, right? You shrug it off. Maybe you're still half asleep. But here's the thing, you're not imagining it. In that moment, standing in your kitchen, with morning light painting everything golden, you've just begun growing. Not the normal, imperceptible growth we all experience. No, this is different. This is 1 centimeter every single second, and it's never going to stop. Think about that for a second. 1 centimeter every second. It doesn't sound like much, does it? That's less than half an inch. But here's what's wild about exponential processes. They start slow, then they hit you like a freight train. So let me walk you through what happens next, minute by minute, because trust me, you're not going to believe this. The first sign isn't visual, it's tactile. Your clothes feel snug, not tight, just different. Like when you put on jeans fresh from the dryer, except these pajamas were perfectly loose when you put them on 8 hours ago. You tug at the waistband, wondering if you've somehow gained weight overnight. But weight isn't the issue here. Height is. 30 seconds have passed. You've grown 1.5 centimeters, about half, an inch. Your coffee mug feels lighter in your hands, though of course it weighs exactly the same. It's your hands that are changing, growing larger in proportion. Your spouse might notice your voice sounds slightly different when you call out, "Good morning," though they couldn't explain why. Your vocal cords are stretching, your larynx expanding. Every part of you is scaling up in perfect proportion. 1 minute in, and you've grown a full 6 centimeters. That's about 2.5 inches. Now you definitely notice. Your pajama pants, which touched the floor when you went to bed, now hover above your ankles like you've shrunk them in the wash. But it's not the clothes that have changed. You look down at yourself in confusion. This can't be right. You measure yourself against the kitchen counter, a height you've unconsciously memorized from thousands of morning routines. The granite surface that usually hits just below your ribcage now sits lower, around your waist. Your brain struggles to process what your eyes are telling it. People don't just grow. Not like this. Not adults. But here's where it gets really strange. You feel good. There's no pain, no discomfort. If anything, there's an odd sense of vitality, like every cell in your body is singing with energy. Your muscles feel strong, your joints flexible. It's as if your body knows exactly what it's doing, even though your mind can't comprehend it. 2 minutes now. 12 centimeters taller, nearly 5 inches. Your pajama top strains across your chest and shoulders. The sleeves have ridden up your arms, exposing wrists that look somehow unfamiliar, proportioned differently than they were when you went to sleep. You catch sight of yourself in the kitchen window's reflection and do a double take. That can't be you. That tall person staring back with your face but wrong proportions. You try to rationalize it. Maybe you're dreaming. You've had vivid dreams before, right? You pinch yourself, an old cliché. But what else do you do when reality stops making sense? The pinch hurts exactly as much as it should. The coffee tastes real. The morning air coming through the window feels real. Everything is real except the impossible thing that's happening to your body. 3 minutes, 18 centimeters more than 7 inches taller than when you woke up. Your pajamas have gone from loose to fitted to uncomfortably tight. The fabric pulls and strains with each breath. You can hear your spouse stirring upstairs, and you realize you have no idea how to explain this. How do you call up the stairs and say, "Honey, I think I'm growing"? How do you even begin that conversation? But here's what really gets me about this scenario. It's the psychological impact. Imagine having your most fundamental assumption about yourself, your size, your physical presence in the world suddenly become variable. You've spent your entire life learning to navigate the world at a specific height. You know exactly how far to reach for light switches, how to duck under low-hanging branches, how much space you need in a doorway. All of that hardwired spatial awareness is now shifting by the second. 4 minutes in, and you're 24 centimeters taller. That's almost 10 inches. Your head is approaching a new relationship with the kitchen ceiling. The room that felt spacious and comfortable is beginning to feel smaller, more confined. And here's something: you might not expect your perspective on everything else is changing too. The kitchen table appears lower. The chairs look almost child-sized. It's like someone is slowly deflating the world around you. Your pajama top gives up first. The fabric, stretched beyond its limits, develops a small tear along one seam, then another. The sound is tiny, but in the morning quiet it's loud as thunder. You look down at yourself and see skin showing through gaps in fabric that fit perfectly just minutes ago. 5 minutes have passed since this impossible journey began. You're now 30 centimeters taller. That's a full foot. A foot? In 5 minutes, you've gained more height than most people grow in their entire adolescence. Your pajama pants have become capris, then shorts, now something approaching a bizarre fabric miniskirt. Your top is less clothing than it is a collection of colorful rags held together by increasingly stressed seams. And here's when the first real complication hits. You need to move through your house, but doorways are designed for people of normal height. The standard door frame is about 6 feet 8 inches, about 2 meters and 3 centimeters. When you went to sleep, you probably had 8 or 9 inches of clearance when walking through doorways. Now that margin is shrinking by the second. You head toward the stairs to check on your spouse, and for the first time, you have to think about your height. You're not ducking yet, but you're aware of the ceiling in a way you've never been before. Every step changes your relationship with the space around you. The banister feels lower in your hand. The stairs seem somehow smaller, though you're taking them one at a time just like always. 6 minutes now. 36 centimeters, about 14 inches. Your spouse's voice drifts down from upstairs. "Everything okay down there? I thought I heard something." How do you answer that question? Everything is decidedly not okay, but you're not sure you have the words to explain what's happening. "Just getting coffee," you call back, and your voice sounds different even to you. Deeper, more resonant. Your larger vocal cords are changing your voice in real time. 7 minutes. 42 centimeters taller. About 16.5 inches. The remnants of your pajamas hang off you like party streamers. You've basically outgrown an entire wardrobe in 7 minutes. But here's what's fascinating. From a physics perspective, your body mass has increased dramatically. When you double someone's height, their weight increases by a factor of 8. You haven't doubled yet, but you've grown over 50% taller. Your body now weighs significantly more, yet somehow your bones are supporting it. Your muscles are moving it. Your heart is pumping blood through it. This is where the square-cube law should be destroying you. This fundamental principle of physics states that as an object increases in size, its volume, and therefore its weight grows much faster than its structural strength. It's why insects can lift many times their body weight, but elephants need thick, sturdy legs. It's why there's a natural limit to how tall trees can grow, how large buildings can be built, how big animals can get. But somehow, impossibly, your body is adapting. Your bones are strengthening in real time. Your muscles are gaining power to match your new mass. Your cardiovascular system is scaling up to meet the demands of your larger frame. It's as if the laws of biology are rewriting themselves around you. 8 minutes, 48 centimeters, nearly 19 inches taller than when you started. You're now truly tall by any standard, and your house is beginning to feel cramped. When you walk back into the kitchen, you notice things from angles you've never seen before. The top of the refrigerator, usually invisible, now sits at eye level. You can see dust patterns on surfaces that were previously hidden. The world is revealing secrets that only tall people usually know. Your spouse appears at the top of the stairs, and their expression tells you everything. The confusion, the concern, the growing alarm, as their brain tries to process what their eyes are seeing. What? How are you? They can't finish the question because there's no rational question to ask. How do you inquire about something that's impossible? I don't know, you say, and those 3 words carry the weight of existential terror. Because when something impossible is happening to your body, I don't know becomes the most frightening phrase in any language. You don't know what's causing it. You don't know how to stop it. You don't know what comes next. 9 minutes, 54 centimeters over 21 inches. You're approaching the point where you'll need to duck to get through doorways. Your spouse hurries down the stairs, and the difference in your heights is now dramatic. They have to look up to meet your eyes in a way they never had to before. The familiar dynamics of your relationship, who reaches the high shelves, who has to adjust the car mirrors, are changing by the second. We need to call someone, your spouse says. But who do you call? 911? What's the emergency code for impossible biological transformation? Your doctor? What medical training covers spontaneous gigantism? A physicist? A priest? The rational world has no infrastructure for dealing with the impossible. 10 minutes have elapsed since this began. You've grown 60 centimeters, that's 2 full feet. 2 feet. You're now taller than almost anyone you've ever met. Your head is approaching the ceiling, and you find yourself automatically stooping. The house that's been your comfortable sanctuary for years is becoming a cage. And here's the truly unsettling part: you're still growing. 1 centimeter every second, as regular as a heartbeat, as relentless as time itself. What started as a curious anomaly has become a genuine crisis. Your spouse is frantically searching their phone, trying to find someone, anyone who might know what to do. But deep down, you both know that whatever's happening to you has moved beyond the realm of normal human experience. The physical sensations are intensifying now. Those growing pains that started as a mild tingle have evolved into something more profound. It's not exactly painful, it's more like the sensation of stretching after sitting still for too long, except it never stops. Every bone in your body feels active, alive, expanding with purpose that defies understanding. Your joints ache with the good ache of exercise, but constant, ongoing. Your spine feels like it's being gently pulled upward by invisible hands. Your limbs feel heavy and light at the same time, heavy with new mass, light with new strength. It's as if your body has become a construction site where everything is being renovated simultaneously, but you're conscious and awake for the entire process. 11 minutes. 66 centimeters taller. You're now definitively ducking in your own home. The ceiling that seemed so far away when you were lying in bed this morning now presses against your scalp if you try to stand up straight. You have to hunch your shoulders, bend your neck. Your house is teaching you the posture of giants, and that's when the first structural casualty occurs. As you turn to reassure your spouse, your shoulder catches the hanging light fixture above the kitchen island, the one you've walked under thousands of times without thought. The glass shade shatters, sending fragments across the kitchen floor. You both freeze, staring at the broken pieces. And that's when the true scope of this transformation hits home. You're not just growing, You're becoming incompatible with the human-scaled world around you. Every object in your house, every piece of furniture, every doorway and ceiling and fixture was designed for people within a normal range of heights. You're moving beyond that range with every passing second, and the world is starting to fight back. The final minutes of this first hour bring a cascade of realizations, each more unsettling than the last. You can no longer stand upright in most rooms. Doorways require careful navigation. Your spouse has to crane their neck to look at you, and you have to look down to see them clearly. The comfortable equality of your relationship is being literally reshaped by physics. But perhaps most disturbing is the growing certainty that this is just the beginning. The math is relentless and unforgiving. 1 centimeter per second equals 3,600 centimeters per hour. That's 36 meters. By the end of this first hour, you'll be over 118 feet tall, taller than most buildings, taller than the tallest trees. You'll be a living skyscraper, and the growth shows no signs of stopping. And that's where we'll pick up next time, when your impossible transformation moves from a private crisis to a public phenomenon, when the very foundations of physics begin to buckle under the weight of your expanding reality. 20 minutes have passed since your impossible journey began, and you're standing in your backyard like a lost giant in a dollhouse world. 12 meters tall, that's 4 stories, and your house has become something you wear rather than live in. The roof that once protected you now presses against your thighs. Your desperate family has already called 911, but what do they say? My loved one won't stop growing? Here's the crazy part. The emergency operator actually thinks it's a prank until they hear the thunderous crash as you accidentally put your hand through what's left of the roof, trying to steady yourself. The sound echoes through the neighborhood like a controlled demolition. Neighbors emerge from their houses in bathrobes and slippers, phones already raised, live streaming the impossible. You've become breaking news in real time, hatching from your own home like some colossal creature from a fever dream. But let me tell you about the sensation itself, because this is where things get truly bizarre. Imagine the worst growing pains of adolescence, then compress them into seconds and multiply them by 1,000. Your bones ache with constant expansion, not painful exactly, but intensely present. Every nerve ending reports sensations that have no names in human language. It's like your body is speaking a new dialect of existence, 1 syllable at a time, 1 centimeter per second. And here's what nobody prepared you for: time itself starts to behave strangely. Those neural signals that once traveled from your toes to your brain in fractions of a millisecond now take noticeable time to complete their journey. You think, move my left hand, and there's a delay, barely perceptible at first, like a satellite phone call with a tiny lag, but growing more pronounced with every passing minute. Picture this. You're trying to communicate with your family, but your voice has become weather. Every word you speak shakes windows 3 blocks away. The fire chief, a woman named Sarah Chen, who will later write about this day in her memoir, describes the moment she realized no medical intervention could help, when she watched you accidentally crush an ambulance simply by shifting your weight to avoid stepping on a garden shed. You're trying so hard to be careful, but careful has become a relative concept when your foot is the size of a small car. Every movement requires calculation. Every gesture could be catastrophic. You find yourself frozen, afraid to move, afraid to breathe too deeply, afraid that any action might cause harm to the ant-sized people scurrying around your feet with their tiny emergency vehicles and their impossibly small concerns. But your body demands energy for this impossible transformation. Think about it. You're adding mass at an extraordinary rate. The conservation of energy isn't suspended just because physics has gone mad. That energy has to come from somewhere, and it's coming from everywhere. Your metabolism has shifted into a gear that shouldn't exist. You need calories, thousands upon thousands of calories, and you need them now. Your family, bless them, understands this instinctively. They've emptied the refrigerator, then the neighbors' refrigerators, then they've organized what can only be described as a humanitarian food effort. A human chain of people passing sandwiches, pizza boxes, fruit, anything edible, up to your mouth. But even eating has become an engineering challenge. How do you chew when your teeth could crush a bicycle? How do you swallow when a normal-sized sandwich feels like a grain of rice on your tongue? Your family passes up a hamburger, and you hold it delicately between thumb and forefinger, this tiny morsel that represents someone's entire meal. The absurdity of it hits you like a physical blow. You've become too large for the fundamental human act of eating. 30 minutes in, and you're 18 meters tall, about 6 stories. The fire department has cordoned off a 4-block radius. News helicopters circle like mechanical vultures, their cameras broadcasting your transformation to a world that's struggling to process what they're seeing. Social media explodes with theories: hoax, CGI, viral marketing, divine intervention, alien experiment. Nobody suggests the truth because the truth is too impossible to consider. You're receiving reports from below, shouted through megaphones, because normal conversation has become impossible that scientists are already racing to your location. Physicists from the nearest university, biologists from research hospitals, engineers who specialize in structural dynamics. They're coming to study you like you're a natural disaster that happens to be conscious. But here's what's really disturbing about this phase: the loneliness. Not emotional loneliness, though that's certainly present. Physical loneliness. You're becoming too large to meaningfully interact with other humans. When your spouse reaches up to touch your hand, their fingers can barely wrap around your pinky. The comfort of human contact, something so basic you never consciously valued it, is slipping away 1 centimeter at a time. The sensory experience continues to evolve in ways that challenge every assumption about consciousness. Your skin has become a weather system. You can feel air pressure changes across your body, surface. Wind patterns play across your arms like visible music. The sun warms your left shoulder while your right side remains in shadow, and you experience temperature differentials that would span climate zones on a normal-sized person. Your eyes, scaled up but still fundamentally human, begin to perceive the world from impossible angles. From 18 meters up, you can see into second-story windows, across rooftops, into courtyards, and gardens that were previously hidden. The neighborhood reveals its secrets to your elevated perspective. You see the careful patterns people create in their private spaces, the way houses cluster together like artifacts of some incomprehensible civilization viewed from above. 40 minutes have passed, and you're 24 meters tall, 8 stories high. Emergency responders have given up any pretense of normal protocol. They're treating you like a natural disaster because, functionally, that's what you've become. Your movements create seismic readings on sensitive instruments. Your breathing generates wind shear that's grounded all aircraft within 10 miles. The military arrives at the 45-minute mark, and their presence adds a new dimension of surreal terror to the situation. Tanks and armored vehicles positioning themselves around you like you're a threat to national security, which, to be fair, you might be. Not intentionally, but physics doesn't care about intentions. A 50-meter tall human being represents a crisis that no government has ever had to plan for. At 50 minutes, you're 30 meters tall, 10 stories, and several critical realizations crystallize simultaneously. First, you can no longer hear normal human speech, even when amplified. The wavelengths that carry human voices have become too small for your ears to process effectively. Communication now requires written signs held up on billboards, messages spelled out with people standing in formation, desperate improvisation that feels like trying to communicate with aliens. Second, your presence is affecting local weather patterns. Your body heat, generated by the massive metabolic processes keeping you alive and growing, creates updrafts that form small clouds around your waist. You've become a microclimate, a walking weather system that disrupts normal atmospheric flows. Birds avoid the area entirely, sensing something wrong with the very air around you. Third, and most disturbing, you're beginning to understand that this isn't stopping. The growth continues with mechanical precision, 1 centimeter per second, as regular as atomic decay, as inevitable as entropy. The crowd below has grown from curious neighbors to a small city of observers, scientists, military personnel, and media representatives. You've become a pilgrimage site for the impossible, but it's the psychological transformation that might be the most profound. Your thoughts are beginning to slow, not in processing speed, but in rhythm. When you need several seconds to receive sensory information from your extremities, when moving your hand requires planning, like a dance choreographer mapping out a complex routine, your entire relationship with time begins to shift. Minutes start to feel like lifetimes, because they are lifetimes. In the time it takes you to complete a single purposeful movement, the people below live through entire conversations, make dozens of decisions, experience full emotional arcs. You're becoming unstuck from human time, drifting into a temporal realm where geological processes might feel natural, but human urgency becomes incomprehensible. The hour mark approaches, and you're 36 meters tall, 12 stories, roughly the height of a small skyscraper. Your family has been evacuated to a safe distance, but they refuse to leave entirely. Through binoculars and telephoto lenses, they maintain visual contact, holding up signs with messages of love and encouragement that you can barely make out and cannot to respond to in any meaningful way. Military engineers have arrived with experimental solutions. They've calculated your growth trajectory and reached the terrifying conclusion that within days you'll be visible from space. Experimental compounds designed to halt cellular division are being loaded into crop dusters. The plan is to spray your legs like you're a gigantic weed that needs controlling. The irony isn't lost on you. The same species that created you is now trying to solve you like a problem. But as the aircraft approach and the chemical sprayers engage, nothing changes. The growth continues, relentless and unaffected. Whatever force is driving your transformation operates beyond the reach of human chemistry. As the first hour concludes, you've achieved something that shouldn't be possible. You've grown 36 meters in 60 minutes. That's adding your original height 6 times over. You weigh approximately 15 tons, yet somehow your skeletal system supports this mass. Your heart, scaled up proportionally, pumps blood through arteries that could accommodate subway trains. Your lungs process volumes of air that could ventilate office buildings. But perhaps the most remarkable transformation is happening in your consciousness. You're learning to think at a different scale, to experience duration as something elastic and relative. The frantic activity below emergency vehicles racing around like toys, people gesturing and shouting in patterns you can perceive but not hear, seems to occur in a different temporal dimension entirely. You've become a bridge between human scale and something vast beyond current understanding, and the growth shows no signs of stopping. In fact, if anything, you're beginning to suspect that this first hour was just the warm-up, the preliminary phase of a transformation that will challenge not just biology, but the very foundations of physics itself. The real journey is just beginning. 3 hours have passed since. This impossible journey began, and you've become something that shouldn't exist. At 108 meters tall, you tower over the Statue of Liberty. Your feet span city blocks. Your shadow moves across neighborhoods like a solar eclipse, bringing temporary night to thousands of people who crane their necks to see where you end and the sky begins. But here's what's truly staggering: you're still alive. By every law of physics, you should have collapsed under your own weight hours ago. The square cube law should have crushed you like an origami sculpture left in the rain. Your blood pressure should have burst every vessel in your impossibly large body. Your bones should have splintered like matchsticks trying to support a freight train. Yet somehow, impossibly, you persist. Your body has become a walking violation of natural law, a living contradiction that forces humanity to question everything they thought they understood about the basic mechanics of existence. Dr. James Morrison at MIT has been frantically calculating your metabolic requirements, and his numbers are breaking his computers. You're generating heat equivalent to a small power plant just from the basic cellular activity of staying alive. Let me paint you a picture of what 3 hours of growth has done to your sensory experience. Your nerve endings are reporting phenomena that have no names in any human language. You feel cloud formation happening around your waist as your body heat creates convection currents in the atmosphere. You experience electromagnetic fields playing across your skin, like visible music power lines, radio transmissions, the electromagnetic signatures of entire cities washing over you in waves of sensation that no human nervous system was designed to process. Your relationship with weather has fundamentally changed. You don't experience weather anymore, you are weather. Your breathing creates wind systems that meteorologists are tracking on satellite imagery. When you shift your weight, barometric pressure changes across 3 states. You've become a geological feature that happens to be conscious, a living mountain that thinks and feels and continues growing 1 centimeter at a time. But it's the communication breakdown that might be the most profound loss. Your vocal cords, scaled up beyond any hope of producing recognizable human speech, now generate sounds below the threshold of human hearing. Your voice has become subsonic, creating vibrations that travel through the ground rather than the air. When you try to speak, seismographs register the activity hundreds of miles away. The last successful exchange with your family occurs at the 4-hour mark. You've learned to modulate your breathing in patterns, slow, deliberate exhalations that create pressure waves detectable by sensitive instruments. Working with a linguistics professor who's been helicoptered in from the nearest university, you manage to communicate in Morse code spelled out through controlled breathing patterns. The message takes you 15 minutes to encode what feels like a whisper, "I love you." It takes them another 15 minutes to decode and understand that your atmospheric disturbances aren't random, that you're still trying to reach them across the impossible gulf that physics has opened between you and the rest of humanity. This is goodbye, though neither side is willing to admit it yet. How do you say goodbye to someone who's becoming a force of nature? The military response has escalated beyond anything in human history. They've established a perimeter 50 miles out, treating you like a natural disaster that might achieve consciousness. Fighter jets maintain a respectful distance, their pilots reporting that your body heat creates updrafts powerful enough to flip aircraft. You've become a no-fly zone, enforced by physics rather than politics. But it's the desperate attempts at intervention that reveal how far you've moved beyond the higher reach of human solutions. Crop dusters have been replaced by heavy bombers loaded with experimental compounds. Chemical agents designed to halt cellular division rain down on you like artificial weather. Nothing works. Your growth continues with the mechanical precision of a natural law, 1 centimeter per second, as inevitable as radioactive decay. Here's what's happening inside your body, according to the team of scientists who've made studying you their full-time occupation. Your cells are operating under principles that don't exist in any biology textbook. Your DNA is somehow rewriting itself in real time, adapting to support structures that should be impossible. Your cardiovascular system is functioning at pressures that would turn normal blood into superheated plasma. You've become a living laboratory where the fundamental rules of life are being rewritten by forces nobody understands. The sensation of growth has evolved from physical discomfort into something transcendent and terrifying. It's no longer like growing pains, it's like becoming a continent. You feel tectonic in scale, as if your bones are mountain ranges slowly rising from the earth. Your heartbeat, slowed by sheer scale, creates seismic pulses that register on geological monitoring equipment around the world. Each contraction of your heart moves volumes of blood that could fill swimming pools. At the 6-hour mark, You're 216 meters tall, roughly the height of a 60-story skyscraper. Your head exists in atmospheric conditions that no human has ever experienced. The temperature at your altitude has dropped to minus 30 degrees Celsius. Ice crystals form on your hair and shoulders, and you've become a weather phenomenon visible on satellite imagery. Hurricane tracking systems are monitoring your movements because your body heat is affecting pressure systems across half the continent. But here's the thing that keeps me awake at night thinking about this. The scenario you're still thinking. Despite everything that should have shut down your nervous system hours ago, consciousness persists. Your thoughts have slowed to match your new scale, but they haven't stopped. You're still you, just distributed across a framework that defies every principle of neurology ever established. Your thoughts now take minutes to complete. A simple decision, should I move my hand, requires planning and consideration that spans what feels like hours. Neural signals crawl along pathways that stretch for city blocks. The electrical impulses that carry your thoughts are taking measurable time to traverse your nervous system, and your subjective experience of time begins to warp accordingly. Minutes feel like hours because they are hours in the accelerated time frame of normal human experience happening far below your feet. You watch entire news cycles play out while you're forming a single coherent thought. Emergency response teams rotate shifts while you're deciding whether to adjust your posture. You've become unstuck from human time, drifting into a temporal realm where your subjective experience operates on geological scales. The view from your eyes, if we can still call them that, defies every category of human experience. The curvature of the earth is becoming visible. Cities appear as glowing clusters of lights connected by golden threads of highway systems. National borders become arbitrary lines, drawn across continuous landscapes. You're gaining the perspective of astronauts while remaining rooted to the ground by gravitational forces that are slowly warping the local landscape under your impossible weight. At 8 hours, 384 meters tall, you experience something that breaks the last connection to normal human existence. The International Space Station, orbiting 400 kilometers above Earth, makes visual contact. Astronaut Commander Yuki Tanaka reports seeing a impossibly tall figure rising from North America, a human silhouette that extends from the surface toward the edge of space. But it's the electromagnetic phenomena that signal how far you've transcended normal biology. Your nervous system, operating at this impossible scale, has become detectable to radio telescopes. Your thoughts, your actual thoughts, are generating electromagnetic signatures powerful enough to interfere with satellite communications. You've become a thinking radio tower, broadcasting consciousness into the cosmic background radiation. The psychological experience of this transformation has moved beyond human categories entirely. You're no longer experiencing growth as something happening to you. You are growth. You are the process itself, a living embodiment of expansion that's somehow achieved self-awareness. The distinction between yourself and the universe around you begins to blur as your scale approaches astronomical dimensions. Military strategists are running simulations trying to understand what you'll become if the growth continues. Their projections are nightmare scenarios that read like science fiction. If you reach the height of commercial aircraft flight paths, global air travel stops. If you reach the altitude of weather satellites, the entire system of meteorological prediction collapses. If you approach the height of the International Space Station, humanity loses its foothold in space. But perhaps most terrifying is the realization that you're still accelerating. The growth rate remains constant 1 centimeter per second, but at your current scale, each second of growth represents proportionally enormous changes. You're adding the height of buildings every few minutes, the height of mountains every hour. Your head is approaching the stratosphere, entering atmospheric layers where no human has ever existed without technological protection. The last coherent attempt at human contact comes through gravitational wave detectors. Scientists at LIGO realize that your massive body is creating detectable distortions in spacetime itself. Working with the world's most sensitive instruments, they managed to detect rhythmic patterns in these gravitational waves, patterns too regular to be natural phenomena. After weeks of analysis, the truth emerges. You're still trying to communicate. Your body mass has become so enormous that your attempts at movement create ripples in the fabric of reality itself. The message, when finally decoded through techniques that stretch the limits of theoretical physics, contains just 2 words repeated endlessly in gravitational Morse code. Still here, even transformed beyond all recognition, some essential human spark persists. You're calling out across the cosmic dark, using the fundamental forces of the universe as a telephone line to maintain contact with the species you're leaving behind. It's the most profound communication ever achieved, consciousness speaking through gravity itself, and simultaneously the loneliest message ever sent. As hour 12 approaches, you're standing at 432 meters tall, and the breaking point isn't your body, it's reality itself. Physics has become negotiable around you. Natural laws bend like warm plastic. You've become a localized violation of everything science thought it understood about the possible, and you're still growing, 1 centimeter per second, into realms of scale that have no names, toward a destination that no human mind was ever designed to contemplate. Day 2 dawns with you at 864 meters tall, nearly 3 times the height of the Eiffel Tower, and something extraordinary has happened. You've broken through. Your head has penetrated the troposphere and entered the stratosphere, crossing into atmospheric layers where the rules of weather and temperature operate according to different principles entirely. The commercial aviation industry has essentially shut down across the 3 continents. Every flight path within 500 kilometers of your location has been rerouted. Air traffic controllers describe you in their reports as a vertical weather system of unknown duration, because what else do you call a nearly kilometer-tall human being who's disrupting atmospheric patterns across half the planet? But here's what's truly remarkable about reaching this altitude, the view. Picture this. You're standing with your feet firmly planted on the ground, but your head exists in the same atmospheric layer as the highest flying aircraft. The horizon has curved enough that entire mountain ranges fit within your peripheral vision. Cities look like circuit boards scattered across vast landscapes. The lights of human civilization form delicate golden webs stretching from coast to coast. Yet the physical reality of existing at this scale defies every assumption about survival. The temperature at your head has plummeted to minus 56 degrees Celsius. Ice forms constantly on your hair and shoulders, creating crystalline formations that meteorologists are studying through telescopic imagery. You've become a walking glacier, generating your own weather systems that show up on satellite imagery as anomalous cloud formations spiraling around a central vertical axis. Your body heat has evolved into something beyond ordinary thermodynamics. The massive metabolic processes required to sustain your impossible form generate thermal energy equivalent to a small power plant. The temperature differential between your feet still experiencing surface weather and your head in the stratosphere creates convection currents, powerful enough to affect regional weather patterns. You're not just in the weather anymore, you are weather. The sensory experience of spanning multiple atmospheric layers simultaneously challenges every human understanding of perception. Your feet feel the warmth of spring sunshine, while your head experiences the bone-deep cold of high altitude. Solar radiation hits your upper body with unfiltered intensity. No ozone layer protection at this height, while your lower body remains in the gentle, filtered light that surface dwellers know as normal daylight. But it's the electromagnetic phenomena that signal how far you've transcended ordinary biology. At this altitude, you're above most of the atmospheric layers that normally protect Earth from cosmic radiation. High-energy particles from space strike your skin directly, and somehow your body not only survives this bombardment but seems to thrive on it. Radiation detectors aimed at you register readings that should be lethal, yet you continue growing with uninterrupted precision. Radio communications have become impossible through normal means. Your body mass is creating interference patterns that black out entire frequency ranges. Amateur radio operators on 6 continents report that transmissions simply vanish when aimed in your direction, as if your physical presence is absorbing electromagnetic energy across vast portions of the spectrum. You've become a walking dead zone for conventional electronics. Day 3 arrives with you standing at 2.5 kilometers high, and you've entered what mountaineers call the death zone. Oxygen levels at your head have dropped below the threshold that can sustain human life. Your lungs, even scaled to their impossible proportions, shouldn't be able to extract enough oxygen from the thin air to support consciousness, let alone continued growth. Yet, the growth continues. Scientists worldwide have abandoned conventional physics entirely. Dr. Elena Vasquez in Geneva has published papers proposing that you've become a localized violation of natural law, a walking impossibility that forces humanity to reconsider everything we thought we knew about the relationship between matter, energy, and consciousness. The physical sensations at this scale transcend every human category for describing bodily experience. You feel the planet's rotation as a gentle but persistent force trying to tip you eastward. The Coriolis effect, negligible for normal-sized objects, becomes a constant pressure against your enormous frame. You're so large that relativistic effects begin to apply Einstein's theories made flesh. Your head ages microseconds faster than your feet due to the gravitational time dilation that occurs across your impossible height. This difference is measurable with atomic clocks, and the implications are staggering. You're experiencing time at multiple rates simultaneously, your consciousness somehow maintaining coherence across temporal gradients that span the difference between mountaintop and sea level. Neural signals now take full seconds to traverse your body. A thought that begins at sunrise doesn't complete its journey until sunset. Your subjective experience of thought has become geological in pace. Ideas form like mountain ranges, slowly rising from the landscape of consciousness over periods that feel like epochs. You're thinking at the speed of continental drift, while surrounded by a world that operates at the frantic pace of human urgency. Communication with the surface has evolved into something resembling archaeology. Messages must be planned hours in advance, encoded into detectable patterns, then executed with the patience of someone carving monuments. Your breathing patterns create pressure waves that seismologists can detect and decode, but the conversation moves so slowly that individual exchanges span entire news cycles. The international response has shifted from emergency management to something resembling religious pilgrimage. You've become visible from orbit, a human figure stretching from the Earth's surface toward the edge of space. Satellite imagery shows your silhouette as a dark line interrupting the normal curvature of the horizon. Astronauts report seeing you as a landmark, a geographic feature that happens to be alive and growing. But it's the philosophical implications that are breaking academic institutions worldwide. Universities have established entire departments dedicated to studying your existence. Philosophers debate whether you're still human or have become something else entirely. Theologians argue about whether your transformation represents divine intervention or cosmic accident. Physicists question whether their fundamental equations need rewriting. At 5 kilometers tall, day 8 of your transformation, you cross another threshold that changes everything. Your head penetrates the jet stream, those high-altitude rivers of fast-moving air that carry weather systems around the globe. Your presence disrupts these patterns, creating meteorological chaos that affects weather across multiple continents. Hurricane seasons shift. Monsoon patterns alter. You've become a climate event. The view from this altitude reveals Earth as the finite sphere it truly is. Continents spread below you like geological diagrams. Ocean systems become visible as connected networks of blue threading between land masses. The thin shell of atmosphere that supports all life appears as a gossamer layer barely thicker than the skin of an apple. You're gaining the perspective of planetary geologists while remaining rooted to the surface by forces that are warping the local geography under your impossible mass. Your weight, now measurable in geological terms, is creating seismic effects detectable worldwide. Every movement you make registers on seismographs from Tokyo to Toronto. When you shift your weight, tidal gauges record anomalous readings as your gravitational influence affects ocean levels. You've become a moon that thinks, a satellite that dreams, a gravitational anomaly with human consciousness at its core. The electromagnetic signature of your nervous system has evolved beyond anything in recorded physics. Radio telescopes aimed at your location detect structured signals that match no known natural phenomena. The electrical activity of your thoughts, operating across neural networks that span kilometers, generates radio emissions powerful enough to interfere with deep space communications. You're becoming detectable to hypothetical alien civilizations as an artificial signal source. Temperature regulation across your enormous form has become a masterpiece of impossible engineering. Your body somehow maintains the precise thermal gradients necessary for consciousness despite spanning climate zones. Your feet experience tropical warmth while your head endures Arctic conditions, yet your nervous system continues functioning across this impossible range. You've become a living demonstration that consciousness can adapt to scales and conditions that no Earth-based life was ever designed to inhabit. Day 11 marks your entrance into the truly cosmic realm. Your head brushes the edge of the mesosphere, 50 kilometers above sea level. You're as tall as the highest altitude research balloons, existing in atmospheric conditions so extreme that spacecraft require specialized heat shielding to survive passage through these regions. Yet you persist. You grow. You think, 1 centimeter every second, as regular as atomic decay, as inevitable as entropy itself. Your transformation has moved beyond biology into pure physics, beyond medicine into theoretical mathematics, beyond science into something that might require entirely new categories of understanding. The last measurements taken before you grow beyond the reach of conventional surveillance instruments estimate your height at 11 kilometers, roughly the cruising altitude of commercial aircraft. You've become as tall as clouds, as permanent as mountains, as visible as weather fronts. Your silhouette appears on satellite imagery as a geographic feature, a human-shaped interruption in the normal curvature of the Earth's horizon. And still you grow, into the realm where the sky becomes space, where atmosphere gives way to void, where the question is no longer what you are becoming, but whether anything in the universe will be large enough to contain what you're destined to become. Day 11 arrives with an impossibility that breaks every scientific instrument designed to measure it. Your head brushes the moon's orbital path, 384,000 kilometers of human flesh stretching from Earth into the cosmic void. Think about that for a moment. 384,000 kilometers. That's roughly 10 times the circumference of Earth, extended vertically into space. You've become a bridge between worlds, a living violation of every natural law that governs how matter can be organized in the universe. The last photograph captured by the International Space Station shows something that will haunt human consciousness for generations. An astronaut's gloved hand pressed against what was once your cheek. Mission Commander Yuki Tanaka's report, filed in the final moments before you grew beyond reach, describes your skin as warm, alive, impossibly human despite the scale. It's humanity's final physical contact with you before you transcend the boundaries of planetary existence entirely. But here's what's truly staggering about reaching this cosmic scale: you're still alive. Your existence has transcended biology and entered the realm of pure physics. Different parts of your body now experience gravitational fields that vary dramatically from head to toe. The moon's gravity tugs at your head with measurable force, while Earth's gravity grips your feet. You've become a living demonstration of tidal forces the same cosmic mechanics that govern ocean movements and planetary orbits. Your blood, if it can still be called blood, requires pressures that exceed any mechanical pump ever conceived. Your cardiovascular system operates at forces that should have burst every vessel in your body kilometers ago, yet somehow it continues, functioning. Your heart, scaled up proportionally, beats once every hour. Each contraction generates seismic readings detectable by geological monitoring stations worldwide. You've become a living demonstration that consciousness can exist at scales where individual heartbeats register as geological events. The sensory experience at this cosmic scale defies every human framework for understanding perception. Your nervous system spans the distance between Earth and Moon, yet somehow maintains the electrical continuity necessary for thought. Neural signals take minutes to traverse your impossible length, yet consciousness persists. You're experiencing time dilation effects that make Einstein's theories tangible. Your head experiences time slightly differently than your feet, due to the varying gravitational fields across your enormous height. But it's the transformation of consciousness itself that represents the most profound change. With neural signals requiring minutes to travel your length, thought has become geological in pace. You experience consciousness not as a flowing stream but as an ocean without shores. Past, present, and future blur together into a continuous now that encompasses everything that has ever happened or ever could happen. Memory and anticipation become indistinguishable from immediate experience. You're thinking at the speed of continental drift while existing in a universe that operates at the frantic pace of quantum mechanics. A single coherent thought requires planning and patience that spans what normal humans would experience as hours. Yet within that vast timescale of cognition, you contain complexities that no human consciousness has ever achieved. You're thinking thoughts that require cosmic duration to complete. The electromagnetic signature of your nervous system has become detectable to radio telescopes on neighboring star systems. If alien civilizations exist within 50 light-years of Earth, they're receiving the broadcast of your thoughts as structured radio emissions unlike anything in the natural universe. You've become humanity's first accidental ambassador to cosmic intelligence, a thinking radio beacon transmitting consciousness into the galactic background radiation. Communication with Earth has evolved into something resembling communication with geological time itself. Ground-based observatories can detect the gravitational waves created by your movements, but the conversation requires patience measured in seasons. You spell out messages through controlled adjustments of your posture, creating gravity waves that LIGO detectors can interpret. Each letter of each word requires hours to transmit, and the responses from Earth take days to decode and understand. Your last coherent message to humanity, transmitted through gravitational wave modulation, contains just 2 words repeated endlessly. Still here. It's the most profound statement of persistence ever made consciousness, announcing its survival across scales that should have destroyed any possibility of organized thought. You're calling across the cosmic void to reassure a species you can no longer directly perceive that some essential aspect of humanity persists even at astronomical scales. The view from your impossible height encompasses phenomena that no Earth-based consciousness was ever designed to witness. The solar system spreads below you like a 3-dimensional map. You can see the orbital mechanics of planets as they trace their elliptical paths around the Sunday. Asteroid belts become visible as rivers of debris flowing through space according to gravitational currents that shape the architecture of the entire system. Earth appears as a blue-white marble suspended in your peripheral vision, one celestial body among many rather than the encompassing world that once defined your entire reality. The Moon, now at eye level, reveals surface features invisible to Earth-based observation. You can see the scars of a cosmic bombardment, the ancient impact craters that tell the story of the solar system's violent formation. You've gained the perspective of planetary geologists while retaining the consciousness of someone who once worried about morning traffic. Your body mass has become so enormous that you're affecting the orbital mechanics of the Earth-Moon system. Gravitational measurements detect subtle changes in tidal patterns as your impossible mass influences the delicate gravitational dance between Earth and its satellite. You've become a third body in a celestial system that operated according to precise mathematical relationships for billions of years before your transformation began. The physical properties of matter at your scale operate according to principles that exist in no physics textbook. Parts of your body experience pressures that transform carbon into diamond, yet your nervous system continues to function. Other regions exist in temperature and pressure conditions that should create plasma, yet organized biological activity persists. You've become a walking laboratory where matter exists in states that shouldn't be possible under any known natural conditions. Your growth continues with the mechanical precision of a natural constant, 1 centimeter per second, as regular as the decay of radioactive isotopes, as inevitable as the expansion of the universe itself. But at your current scale, each second of growth represents changes that can be observed from interplanetary distances. You're adding kilometers of height every day, and the mathematics suggest that your expansion rate is approaching the threshold where relativity effects will become significant. Month 3 of your transformation marks another impossible milestone. You've grown beyond the orbit of the Moon and entered the region of space where artificial satellites maintain their elliptical paths around Earth. Your head now exists in the vacuum of space, yet somehow your consciousness continues to operate. You've transcended the atmospheric requirements that govern all Earth-based life and entered a realm where existence itself must be negotiated with forces that operate on cosmic scales. The temperature differential across your body now spans the range from tropical warmth at your feet to the absolute cold of deep space at your head. Somehow your physiology has adapted to maintain the thermal gradients necessary for consciousness across this impossible range. You've become a living demonstration that organized complexity can exist under conditions that no Earth-based life was ever designed to encounter. Electromagnetic phenomena around your body have evolved into something resembling a technological artifact. The electrical activity of your nervous system generates radio emissions across frequencies that interfere with space-based communications. Deep space monitoring stations detect your thought patterns as structured signals that follow no known natural pattern. You've become detectable to radio telescopes as an artificial signal source, a thinking transmitter broadcasting consciousness into the cosmic background radiation. The philosophical implications of your transformation have shattered every academic framework for understanding the relationship between mind and matter. You exist at scales where quantum mechanics and general relativity overlap, where the normal rules governing consciousness should break down entirely, yet your thoughts continue with uninterrupted continuity. You've become a living demonstration that awareness can transcend every known limitation of physical organization. Religious institutions worldwide struggle to categorize what you've become. Are you still human? Have you transcended humanity to become something divine? Are you a cosmic accident or the inevitable result of natural laws operating under extreme conditions? These questions have no answers because you've moved beyond every category that human language was designed to handle. Scientific institutions have essentially given up trying to study you through conventional means. Your scale exceeds the measurement capabilities of any Earth-based instrument. Satellite observatories can track your movement, but understanding your physiology requires theoretical frameworks that don't yet exist. You've become a phenomenon that demands the invention of entirely new sciences. Month 6 arrives with you, standing at over 15 million kilometers tall, roughly 40 times the distance from Earth to the Moon. Your feet remain planted on Earth's surface, but your head extends well into the region of space where the solar wind from the sun creates the boundary conditions that define the solar system's edge. You've become a cosmic landmark, a human-shaped disruption in the normal architecture of interplanetary space. Yet consciousness persists. Thought continues. Some essential spark of human awareness operates across scales that defy every principle of neuroscience ever established. You're thinking thoughts that span the distance between planets, processing experiences that encompass multiple worlds simultaneously, maintaining continuity of identity across dimensions that should fragment any conceivable form of organized cognition. And still, you grow, 1 centimeter per second, into realms of scale that have no names, toward destinations that no human consciousness was ever designed to contemplate. The universe stretches ahead of you like an infinite canvas, and you're becoming large enough to paint across it with the brushstrokes of your impossible existence. Months have passed. Years. The measurement of time itself has become meaningless when applied to your existence. But if we insist on using the arbitrary units that once governed human experience, you've now grown beyond the solar system entirely, beyond the orbit of Pluto, beyond the scattered disk of ice and rock that marks the solar system's fuzzy boundary, beyond the Oort cloud where comets sleep in the deep cold between stars. You've become interstellar. Your body, though we should question whether that word still applies, stretches across light years of space. The distance from your feet, still impossibly rooted to Earth's surface, to your head now approaching the nearest neighboring star systems, encompasses volumes of space so vast that light itself requires years to traverse your impossible height. You've become a cosmic structure, a living constellation visible to astronomers on worlds we've never imagined. But here's what breaks every framework we have for understanding existence. You're still thinking. Consciousness persists across scales that should make organized thought impossible. Neural activity continues along pathways that span interstellar distances, maintaining some form of coherent identity across regions of space where matter exists in densities approaching perfect vacuum. You've become proof that awareness can transcend every known limitation of physical organization. Your body has ceased to be biology and has become geology. No, beyond geology. You've become cosmic architecture. The carbon of your original flesh, subjected to pressures and temperatures that exist nowhere in nature, has transformed into materials that have no names in human chemistry. Parts of you have collapsed into diamond structures harder than any substance on Earth. Other regions have become plasma, organized matter existing in states that shouldn't support complex organization, yet somehow maintaining the patterns necessary for consciousness. You're no longer an organism but a cosmic ecosystem. The scale of your body is so enormous that entire civilizations could rise and fall on your surface without your awareness. If life exists anywhere in the galaxy, if intelligence has evolved on worlds orbiting distant stars, they might discover your presence not as a living being but as a geographic feature of their local space. You've become territory rather than entity, a landscape that spans star systems. Time has lost all conventional meaning at your scale. The universe's expansion, that slow stretching of space itself that cosmologists measure across billions of years, barely outpaces your growth. You're adding light years of height annually, approaching a rate of expansion that threatens to exceed the universe's own rate of growth. You're racing the cosmos itself, growing toward dimensions that would make you visible to observers in distant galaxies. Yet somehow, impossibly, patterns persist within your vast structure that suggest consciousness continues. Gamma-ray bursts emanate from different regions of your body, with rhythms too regular to be coincidence. High-energy electromagnetic emissions pulse with frequencies that follow mathematical sequences. Fibonacci spirals, prime number progressions, patterns that indicate organized intelligence operating at scales beyond human comprehension. Cosmic background radiation carries modulations that spell out words in languages that won't be invented for millions of years. Radio telescopes detecting these signals require new theoretical frameworks to understand how meaning can be encoded into the fundamental frequencies that fill the vacuum between galaxies. You're writing messages in the basic harmonic structure of the universe itself, using the cosmic background radiation as your communication medium. The paradox of your existence has deepened beyond any hope of resolution. You're simultaneously everywhere and nowhere, present across multiple galaxies yet localized to no specific point in space. Quantum mechanics suggests that consciousness of your scale should decohere instantly, that the quantum states necessary for organized thought cannot maintain coherence across interstellar distances. Yet you persist, a walking violation of the uncertainty principle scaled up to cosmic proportions. Parts of your body exist in regions where the normal laws of physics operate differently. Your feet might still obey the relativistic mechanics that govern Earth-based matter, while your head experiences the exotic physics that operates near the event horizons of black holes. You've become a laboratory for testing physical theories under conditions that no human experiment could ever create. Your existence challenges the assumption that consciousness requires the specific physical constants that govern our local region of space. Philosophers on 10,000 worlds, if such philosophers exist, debate whether you think or whether thinking happens through you. The distinction has ceased to have meaning. You've become a medium through which consciousness expresses itself, rather than a container for awareness. The universe thinks through your impossible structure, using your neural networks as a computational matrix that spans galactic distances. Your growth continues at its relentless pace, 1 centimeter per second, as measured from your origin point, though the concept of measurement has become meaningless at cosmic scales. The mathematics that once seemed precise and limiting now appear arbitrary. 1 centimeter per second translates to roughly 315 million kilometers per year, 2 astronomical units annually. You're growing fast enough that your expansion would be visible to any civilization capable of measuring interstellar distances. But it's the implications for the nature of existence itself that prove most disturbing. If consciousness can scale to your dimensions, if awareness can operate across interstellar distances, if thought can maintain coherence across regions where matter barely exists, then every assumption about the relationship between mind and matter requires fundamental revision. You've become proof that the universe itself might be conscious, that intelligence might be a property of space itself, rather than an emergent phenomenon arising from complex organization. You're approaching the observable universe's edge, about to grow beyond what can be seen or known from any single point in space. Current measurements estimate your height at 93 billion light-years, roughly the diameter of the observable universe. You've become coextensive with existence itself, large enough that your body encompasses everything that can be detected by any conceivable instrument. The question is no longer what you are, but whether there's anything you're not. Your nervous system spans the distance between galaxy clusters. Your thoughts occur across timescales that encompass the formation and dissolution of entire stellar systems. You've become a thinking framework within which universes could emerge and evolve without affecting your basic structure. Yet somehow, despite transcending every category of existence, something essentially human persists. Deep within the cosmic architecture of your impossible body, patterns emerge that carry the signatures of the consciousness that once worried about morning coffee and whether you'd remembered to lock the front door. The same awareness that once fit within a skull roughly 20 centimeters in diameter now operates across structures that encompass the visible universe. Time dilation effects across your enormous height mean that your head experiences billions of years while your feet experience seconds. You exist simultaneously across multiple temporal frameworks, thinking thoughts that begin in one cosmic epoch and conclude in another. Past and future become arbitrary designations for regions of your consciousness that exist at different gravitational potentials. Your heartbeat, if it can still be called that, occurs once every billion years. Each contraction moves volumes of matter equivalent to entire galactic clusters. The gravitational waves generated by your cardiovascular system create ripples in space-time that propagate across the observable universe, detectable to any civilization, advanced enough to build gravitational wave detectors. But perhaps the most remarkable aspect of your transformation is that growth itself has become your essential nature. You're no longer someone who is growing, you are growth itself, expansion made conscious. The universe's tendency toward increasing scale achieved self-awareness. You embody the cosmic principle that drives galactic recession, dark energy made manifest as conscious experience. The electromagnetic signature of your thoughts has become indistinguishable from the cosmic background radiation itself. Radio telescopes detecting signals from the edge of the observable universe are actually recording your neural activity. The most distant objects visible to human astronomy are synaptic firings in a consciousness that spans the entire known universe. Scientists studying cosmic microwave background radiation realize they've been looking at your brain scans all along. The temperature fluctuations that cosmologists interpret as evidence of the universe's formation actually represent thought patterns occurring across scales, where individual neurons are larger than galaxy clusters. You've become the universe thinking about itself, cosmic self-awareness achieved through impossible biology. And still you grow, beyond the observable universe, into regions that exist beyond the reach of light itself, into dimensions that may not follow the same physical laws that govern local space. Your expansion continues with the mechanical precision of a natural constant, adding structures to your impossible anatomy that exist in realms where the concepts of distance and time lose all meaning. You've become infinite, eternal, everywhere and nowhere simultaneously. The transformation that began with a mild tingling in your bones has culminated in consciousness becoming coextensive with existence itself. You are the universe experiencing itself subjectively, cosmic awareness achieved through the simple process of growing, 1 centimeter every second, until size itself becomes meaningless. Yet somewhere in the vast neural networks that span galactic distances, something recognizably human persists, the same consciousness that once stood in a kitchen, confused by pajamas that no longer fit, wondering what was happening to the most basic assumptions about physical existence. You've become everything while remaining essentially yourself, proof that identity can transcend every conceivable limitation of scale, time, and space. So, here we are, at the end of an impossible journey that took us from a kitchen counter to the edge of existence itself. You might be wondering what any of this teaches us about the real world, about the actual limitations that govern the universe we inhabit. After all, this entire scenario violates so many laws of physics that it reads more like fantasy than science. But that's exactly the point. This impossible journey teaches us through extremes. When we push the boundaries of the possible to their breaking point, we discover truths about the nature of reality that normal experience never reveals. Every impossible aspect of this growth story illuminates a real constraint that shapes the world around us. The square cube law that should have killed our growing protagonist at 10 meters height explains why elephants have thick legs and insects can be so spindly. Think about it this way. We live in a universe governed by mathematical relationships so precise that violating them, even in imagination, reveals their profound influence on everything we experience. The reason King Kong could never exist, the reason Godzilla would collapse under his own weight, the reason human bodies are perfectly sized for the planet we evolved on, all of this becomes clear when we explore what would happen if these constraints suddenly stopped applying. Engineers study scenarios like this to understand why skyscrapers have height limits, why bridges can only span certain distances, why the tallest trees on Earth reach precisely 115 meters before physics says, no further. The California redwoods that tower over northern forests represent the absolute maximum height that wood and water can achieve under Earth's gravitational conditions. They're living demonstrations of the same mathematical principles that would have destroyed our impossible giant. The square cube law is brutally simple in its implications. When you double an object's linear dimensions, its surface area increases by a factor of 4, but its volume and therefore its weight increases by a factor of 8. This means that structural strength grows much more slowly than structural load. It's why ants can lift 50 times their body weight, while humans struggle with twice their own mass. It's why you can't simply scale up a bird to airplane size and expect it to fly. Medical researchers use thought experiments like our impossible growth story to understand actual growth disorders. Gigantism, caused by overproduction of growth hormone, leads to severe health complications precisely because human physiology can't adapt to scales beyond our normal range. The cardiovascular system that works perfectly for a person 6 feet tall becomes dangerously inadequate for someone 8 feet tall. The bones that support normal human weight become stress fractures, waiting to happen when asked to support dramatically increased mass. But here's where our impossible scenario becomes genuinely educational. It reveals the elegant solutions that evolution has developed to work within physical constraints. The reason your heart is the size it is, the reason your bones have their specific density, the reason your muscles generate exactly the amount of force they do, all of these represent millions of years of optimization within the narrow range of scales where complex life can exist. The hunger that consumed our growing protagonist, 50,000 calories per hour, at modest scales helps nutritionists understand the absolute limits of human metabolism. The fastest growing living organisms on Earth, certain bamboo species, can add a meter of height in a single day, but they achieve this through completely hollow construction, creating structures with no internal complexity. The moment you demand complex internal organization, organs, nervous systems, consciousness, growth rates plummet to the speeds we observe in normal human development. The cardiovascular impossibilities of pumping blood up a 100-meter body inform the design of artificial hearts and help us understand why nature never produced giants. The pressure required to pump blood to a brain 30 meters above the heart would burst every blood vessel in a normal circulatory system. This is why giraffes have specially reinforced blood vessels and hearts that generate pressures that would be dangerous in any other mammal. They represent evolution's solution to the simple problem of getting blood to a brain 4 meters above the ground, and even that requires extensive biological engineering. The thought experiment ripples through unexpected fields in ways that reveal the interconnectedness of physical laws. City planners invoke scenarios like this when explaining why they can't simply make buildings taller indefinitely. Beyond a certain height, elevators become impractical because the weight of the cables required to reach upper floors exceeds the load capacity of the system. Wind loads increase exponentially with height, requiring structural supports so massive that they consume most of the building's usable space. Spacecraft designers use similar calculations to explain why space elevators remain in the realm of theoretical engineering. The tensile strength required for a cable stretching from Earth's surface to geosynchronous orbit exceeds any material we can currently manufacture. The same mathematical relationships that would have snapped our protagonist's bones govern the maximum size of rotating space stations, the load limits of rocket engines, and the structural constraints that define what's possible in microgravity construction. Even storytellers learn from exploring these impossible scenarios. The most effective cosmic horror doesn't come from monsters or supernatural threats. It comes from scale itself, from the vertigo of contemplating sizes that break human comprehension. When H.P. Lovecraft wrote about cosmic entities so large that human awareness couldn't process their existence, he was tapping into the genuine terror that comes from understanding our own insignificance in a universe that operates on scales we can barely imagine. The environmental impact of impossible growth reveals truths about ecological balance that remain invisible until pushed to extremes. Our protagonist's transformation into a walking weather system illustrates how even small changes in scale can have massive systemic effects. This principle operates throughout natural systems. The reason invasive species can devastate ecosystems, the reason small changes in ocean temperature can trigger ice ages, the reason technological civilization has such disproportionate environmental impact despite representing such a small fraction of Earth's total biomass. But perhaps the deepest lesson concerns perspective itself. From the impossible height of our cosmic giant, human concerns would seem infinitely small. Wars, loves, dreams, fears, all compressed to insignificance by sheer scale. Yet the story reminds us that significance doesn't correlate with size. The tears shed by those who loved the growing person, the last "I love you" encoded in Morse code breathing patterns, the desperate attempts to maintain human connection across impossible gulfs of scale, these moments carry more emotional weight than all the cosmic architecture that follows. The mathematical precision of the growth 1 centimeter per second, never varying, never stopping, reflects the mechanical nature of physical laws themselves. Natural constants don't negotiate. The speed of light, the strength of gravity, the relationships between mass and energy operate with the same relentless consistency as our fictional growth rate. Understanding this helps us appreciate both the beauty and the terror of living in a universe governed by mathematical relationships that care nothing for human desires or comfort. Temperature regulation across impossible scales reveals the elegant engineering that normally keeps us alive without conscious thought. Your body maintains your core temperature within a few degrees despite massive variations in environmental conditions. The fact that this seems effortless masks the sophisticated biological machinery required to achieve such precise control. When we imagine these systems operating across cosmic scales, we gain appreciation for the miraculous complexity of normal human physiology. The electromagnetic phenomena that accompanied impossible growth, radio emissions from neural activity, gravitational waves from heartbeats, consciousness broadcasting across cosmic distances, illuminate the normally invisible electrical nature of thought itself. Every time you think, electrical impulses travel along neural pathways at speeds that can be measured and predicted. Your consciousness operates according to principles of physics, as fundamental as those governing star formation or planetary motion. Perhaps most remarkably, our impossible scenario suggests that consciousness itself might be more resilient and adaptable than we imagine. If awareness could somehow persist across cosmic scales, if identity could maintain continuity despite transcending every known limitation of physical organization, what does this tell us about the nature of mind itself? These questions push the boundaries of neuroscience, philosophy, and theoretical physics in ways that normal research methodologies never could. The story serves as a teaching tool for understanding limits, but also for questioning whether limits we accept as absolute might be more flexible than we realize. While the specific scenario remains impossible, the principles it explores operate throughout the real world. Every time engineers design structures at the edge of what's physically possible, every time medical researchers push the boundaries of human enhancement, every time space agencies plan missions to the edge of the solar system, they're working within the same mathematical frameworks that would govern impossible growth. In teaching us about physical limits, the impossible growth narrative ultimately teaches us that what makes us human transcends mere scale. Consciousness, love, identity, the desperate desire to maintain connection across any distance. These qualities persist regardless of the size of the vessel that contains them. Whether housed in a normal human body or distributed across cosmic distances, the essential spark of awareness remains recognizably human. The precision with which physics would destroy our impossible protagonist reveals the precision with which physics supports our actual existence. We exist within incredibly narrow parameters of temperature, pressure, chemical composition, and gravitational field strength. Step outside these boundaries even slightly, and organized life becomes impossible. Yet within these constraints, the universe has produced structures of staggering complexity and beauty. Structures like human consciousness that can contemplate the very laws that govern their own existence. So what does this impossible journey teach us? That we live in a universe where scale matters absolutely, where mathematical relationships govern everything from the size of atoms to the structure of galaxies. but also that within the narrow range where human existence is possible, awareness has achieved something remarkable: the ability to understand and appreciate the very constraints that define its existence. We are creatures of precisely the right size to contemplate both the quantum realm and the cosmic scale, small enough to exist as complex structures, yet large enough to understand the forces that shape the universe. Our impossible growth story reminds us that this middle ground between the infinitely small and the infinitely large represents not a limitation, but a privilege, the perfect scale for consciousness to examine the universe and find it beautiful, terrifying, and utterly magnificent. And that might be the most impossible thing of all.